Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksuron Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sanyavadi Paschati Distani. So it's now 6:15 in Alachua, and we're going to call this the sunrise service because I think within 15 minutes or so the sun's going to rise. So it's going to get lighter and lighter. Right now we're just using the light of my computer and the lights that are in front of my house on my porch. So yeah, so I decided to try it outside. Anyway, you're going to all get lighter and more beautiful when the light comes. And that was my computer that just went out. Okay, so Sundari Radha has asked me to speak on the topic of satisfaction. Dissatisfaction. And I think it's going to take more than one class because there's two ways of approaching it. And one of the ways that Sundari Radha wanted to approach it was to approach it from the angle with a vision of non-devotees, why they're dissatisfied. And then another angle of vision is the philosophical angle of vision, of why living entities in general, aside from the psychology or specific details of why people find satisfaction, general philosophical principles. So what I did this morning is I went to Mangalarti, and I came home after Mangalarti because I had about 40 minutes. And I went through the Bhagavatam and I searched the word dissatisfaction. And so it is going to give us a general philosophical basis of why people in general are dissatisfied. And then we can, if there's not time in this class, then in other classes we'll go more into specifics. And of course you can make your comments. And the answers that the Bhagavatam gives are very, very simple. They're philosophical, and they'll be very clear to us. But in terms of translating that into helping a non-devotee, in terms of counseling or offering what we're thinking of solving this problem on a practical level, the people who are dissatisfied will require perhaps a slightly different discussion. And we may not have time today for that discussion. We'll see how it goes. But I wanted to first read what I found in Bhagavatam. I think it's interesting. So, if you know the Bhagavatam at all, then you know that before the Bhagavatam was written, Vyasadeva had compiled all the Vedas. So this story is in the Bhagavatam about how after he compiled all the Vedas, he was dissatisfied. So I was searching the word dissatisfaction, I think I was searching. Let me see. Dissatisfied. I was searching the word dissatisfied. Actually, I can tell you because I can dissatisfied. I was searching the word dissatisfaction. I can also search the word dissatisfied, and you can see what comes. So, Vyasadeva compiled all the Vedas, and he compiled the Puranas, he compiled Mahabharata. And something inside of him didn't feel right, which is quite interesting, because here we're talking about dissatisfaction on a higher level, not that he was materially dissatisfied. But he was Krishna conscious, obviously, but now being transcendental to the modes of nature and feeling dissatisfied, that has to be a spiritual dissatisfaction. But it reveals something quite interesting. Anyway, I'll read. Narada Muni, speaking to Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva, after he compiled all the Vedas, he felt he wasn't satisfied. He felt something was wrong, just like we have different emotional experiences in different situations. Sometimes we feel guilty, sometimes we feel something's not right. Sometimes we do something that we think will satisfy us and it doesn't. Sometimes we do something that we think will make us happy and it frustrates us. So he did what he thought was right, put all the Vedas into writing. They were just orally received previously. And he wasn't satisfied. It's just something was wrong, which was good. Narada Muni felt it was good because that means he realized that something more was needed. So here's fourth chapter of the first canto, text 31. And Vyasadeva told Narada, he said, I compiled all the Vedas, the Puranas, Mahabharata, I don't feel satisfied. What's happening? And Narada Muni said, this may be because, no, Vyasadeva is telling Narada Muni, he's reflecting and he's saying, this may be because I did not specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, which is dear both to perfect beings and to the infallible Lord. So, of course, we know that without devotional service we won't be satisfied. And he also felt, because he wasn't teaching people devotional service, he won't be satisfied. Just like, as you know, we have a course on forgiveness. And so sometimes when I'm doing this with non-devotees, it's different with devotees, because devotees we can be very philosophical, very Krishna conscious about it. But sometimes with non-devotees, we get into their emotional issues. And it's the nature of the course that sometimes these emotional issues arise. And sometimes I have to get into it very much with people. And the purpose of the course was ultimately to create a context in which to teach something relatable, but also bring them to Krishna consciousness. But sometimes we get very involved in their personal issues. And at those times I feel some kind of dissatisfaction because I want to give them Krishna, and I'm not directly giving it. So, so I think Narada Muni is the same. And if you ever do any kind of preaching where maybe you're entering, as Prabhupada said, the saying, come in like a pin and go in like a needle and out like a plow. That, there's some dissatisfaction if I can't give Krishna consciousness completely. So that was, Vyasadeva was feeling that also. I'm giving them everything but pure bhakti. And so Narada Muni said you should write Bhagavatam, or you should describe the glories of Krishna purely. So in the Bhagavatam, then Vyasadeva stated that the Bhagavatam is written about pure devotional service for those who want pure devotional service, for those pure devotees. Then he wrote Bhagavatam, he was satisfied. So Bhagavatam says pure devotional service, unless you do pure devotional service, you won't be satisfied. So we know that. That's a philosophical principle. But still we want to kind of see how we can relate this to everybody in general and helping solve their problems. In Bhagavad Gita, did you have Arjuna's dissatisfaction? So Prabhupada basically explains Arjuna's dissatisfaction in a philosophical way. Simple point. You're a spiritual being in the material world, you're a fish out of water. Good luck trying to be happy, fish out of water. You're a spiritual being in the material world, good luck trying to be happy materially. If you want to be satisfied materially, it doesn't work. You're a spiritual being, you're neglecting your soul. So Prabhupada gives this example. It's a nice example. I don't know if it's an example, but it makes a point. Satchidananda, we're eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. So nobody likes ignorance. Like if you're confused about something, it's very painful, isn't it? If you're lost, it's not a happy feeling. If you don't know how to do something, like you don't have enough money and you don't know how to make money. I was just dealing with some devotees, and they need money, but they're in a situation where they don't know how to make it. It's a very depressing feeling. They kind of hands are tied. Can't do this because it would require facilities I don't have, and I don't have certain skills, and for different reasons people won't hire me, and I don't have ideas how to make money. So ignorance it's frustrating because our nature is chit. We're full of knowledge. So to be in ignorance is it's not our nature. It's so unnatural for us to be in ignorance. We just don't like it. All of you who've just tuned in, I'm outside, the sun is rising, so the monster effect or the horror movie effect will soon be over. I can see right now it's the sun, the darkness is going to give us like 10 minutes. And we'll have beautiful soft light. And actually give us more time, we might have too much light. So then, we're eternal. Sat. Chit. Sat means we're eternal. So does anybody want to die? No. And it's so interesting because if I ask people, I say, look, you don't want to die, do you? I said, no. I say, well, how long do you want to live? Because if you live a long time, you're going to have to work. Unless you can amass billions of dollars and invest it and live on it, you're going to have to work. So if you want to live 500 years, you're going to have to work 500 years. And you don't know what the world's going to be like in 500 years. And so they think about it and say, yeah, maybe, I'm not ready to die now. I don't know. I wouldn't maybe want to live 500 years. So, but nobody's ready to die. There's a saying, everyone wants to go to heaven and nobody wants to die. So even though I want to go to heaven, even though I don't want to work the rest of my, I don't want to work for hundreds of years, I don't really want to die. And I'm never ready to die unless my body just falls apart and it's so painful. But if I'm healthy, most people, unless they have suicidal tendencies, they don't want to die. Why? Why don't we want to die? What did Prabhupada explain? He said, because we're eternal. That it's just unnatural for us. Like we can't stand ignorance. The concept of death, nobody wants it. If your doctor tells you you're going to die, it just completely will upset you. You can't deal with it because we're eternal. It's so unnatural for us to be thrown out of a body. It's so unnatural for us to be in ignorance, to not know. It's just completely miserable and frustrating. And then the last one, Ananda, bliss. It's so unnatural for us to be unhappy, to be dissatisfied. And therefore, when we're unhappy, when we're dissatisfied, it's very difficult to deal with it because it's so much against our nature. So that was Prabhupada's point. He said, why don't things work for conditioned souls? He says, because material life is the opposite of your nature. It's not who you are. So when you're dissatisfied or when you're unhappy, it's not just that you're unhappy, but it's that you're a spirit soul who's blissful. And like intuitively, on some level, it's unconscious for most people. Intuitively, we understand that happiness is like our birthright. It's our gift right. God would want us to be happy. He wouldn't make us to be miserable. So when we're not happy, it doesn't, because it's not our nature. It's not our constitutional position. It's not just that we're unhappy, but we're out of our nature. So that makes it, you understand what I'm saying? Because one thing is not to be happy, but the other thing is that happiness is your nature. So it's doubly bad because you're out of your nature. And so when you're dissatisfied or unhappy, it's like salt on the wound, because not only externally, existentially, things are not going well, but internally you're a soul whose nature is blissful. And so it's working on that level also. So I think people should understand that. That as a soul, you're blissful, you're Ananda. So that when you're unhappy, as a soul, it's going against your nature. So on some subconscious level, it's salt on the wound. Unhappiness is salt on the wound because it's not supposed to be this way. And like when, before we're devotees and we look at the world and we see the suffering of the world and we think, it's not supposed to be this. Why is it like this? It shouldn't be this way. It's not right. It doesn't make any sense. So, and why should we have to die? It doesn't make any sense. And why am I in ignorance? Why don't I just know things? It doesn't make sense. We're reflecting that reality and who we are don't work. Rabbeinu Sarup said something to the effect that we have this quarrel with reality. In other words, reality is just the opposite of who we are. He said we have a fundamental quarrel with reality. That's an interesting statement. We have a fundamental quarrel with reality. It means that our fundamental nature and the fundamental nature of reality are complete opposite. So it's just like it doesn't fit. So consciously or subconsciously, there's this quarrel going on. Why do I have to die? Why am I unhappy? Why am I in ignorance? Why don't I know? Why don't I know what life's about? Why do I try things that I think will make me happy and they don't? Why do I think I know something and I find out I was duped? It's not true. Why does my best friend, who was 25 years old, why did he have to die? It's not fair. It's not right. Why? We just lost one of our dear friends, Gandharvika. And Mother Gandharvika, I knew her before she was a devotee. I helped her become a devotee. And then we worked together with Gunnar Maharaj on a project called Krsna Fest. And, we worked together from the time she became a devotee in the 80s. And then recently I was in Argentina, where she has been for the last so many years, 10 or 20 years. And then in March she came and we saw her in Mayapur. And she was in a lot of pain. She didn't know why. And she died in May. We saw her in Mayapur, 52 or something, or 51, or 50 years old, and we saw her in Mayapur. We had prasadam. She came, it's like, oh, my back hurts, I can't sit down, I don't know why. And what happened is cancer got into her bones, and her bones were falling apart, but we didn't know that. Just, you get aches and pains. And then that was March, and then end of May she left her body. It's like that's not supposed to happen. She's too young. The son is 9 years old. She's supposed to be serving Krishna for so many years. It's not supposed to happen. It's just like so hard to deal with. Like we all know. It's just like when you think of death, you say this person's here, and then they're not here anymore. It's like, because we're eternal, it's just like it doesn't make sense to us. Like you're engaged with friends, parents, husband, wife, son, daughter, and then all of a sudden one day one of them's gone. It's like, huh? What's going? It's like it's a team. It's like, you're working together. You're moving forward in life, and then one of them's just like they don't exist, and that body disintegrates. It's like, for the spirit soul who's eternal, it just doesn't work. It's just like it's just crazy, awkward, isn't it? So we have a fundamental quarrel with reality, because reality is asad, achit, nirananda. It's temporary. There's ignorance, and there's suffering, and so we have a fundamental quarrel with reality. We have a really hard time dealing with it, isn't it? So, as I was saying, unhappiness is exasperated. Is that the word? Exacerbated. Not exasperated. You become exasperated when you're unhappy. The unhappiness is multiplied because our nature is not to be unhappy. So it's like on a subconscious level, there's tons of pain going on. And most people don't know why. It's because you're spirit soul and you're blissful. So, now, we're going to get into some of the causes of unhappiness. And the causes are interesting. This is from early parts of the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada's talking about the condition of society. The more we go on increasing such troublesome industries to squeeze out the vital energy of the human being, in other words, business is being owned by someone who's exploiting people so he can become wealthy, and then the people suffer in factories. That's what Prabhupada is saying. The more this happens, the more there will be unrest and dissatisfaction of the people in general, although a few only can live lavishly by exploitation. So Prabhupada is saying one cause of dissatisfaction is you move people off the land. People are actually happy living off the land. Most people, I think in India, I don't know now, but previously, that 80% of the people were living off the land. We just came back to Alachua, and in front of me I'm looking at about 2 acres of land, and behind me there's another 2.5. So maybe 2.5 in front of me, 2.5 behind me. And the people out here in Alachua, it's a town of 7,000, and most people in Alachua have to live on 5 acres. That's a policy that the government has. They don't want to populate it. So if everyone lives on 5 acres, it won't get populated. And so because there's not a lot of people here, it's country, people are different than they are in the city. They're just, you can see they're not as stressed. They're happier. Life is simpler. So 80% of the people in India used to live on the land. I don't know what it is now. In America, I read that around the turn of the century, 1900s, 50% of the people are living on the land. And so Prabhupada's point is, you take people off the land, you put them in a factory and work this monotonous job, and going to and fro to the factory, and there's no natural lighting and so forth. It's a hellish condition, and then what happens is one person becomes wealthy, and everybody suffers. I was just reading something about China, and when China industrialized, what they did is the people who were living in villages were living in extreme poverty for some reason. So they got all the people out of the villages, and the people who were out of villages were happy to come to the city and work in the factory because they were hardly having enough food for themselves. And so that's how China became powerful, by putting people on very, very small salaries, working very long hours in factories, producing low quality goods and imitation goods. So Prabhupada's describing that the result of this will be unrest, people won't be happy. They'll see somebody's getting wealthy and I'm suffering. So that's one cause of dissatisfaction, just what Prabhupada's saying, is the current lifestyle, how we're living, working in a factory or in an office. You're living in an office in a cubicle. A lot of these cubicles, there's no natural light. You're sitting under a fluorescent light. You drive to work, however long that takes. Could take you up to an hour and a half. In some cases, I know, devoted to 2 hours each way because he lived so far from New York. Had to take a train. It's not natural. It's naturally going to cause dissatisfaction. Those city environments they're not places you go to generally go to find satisfaction. Okay. A godless civilization cannot cleanse the mind because it has no idea of God. And for this simple reason, people under such a civilization cannot have good qualifications, however they may be materially equipped. We have to see things by their resultant action. The resultant action of human civilization in the age of Kali is dissatisfaction. So everyone is anxious to get peace of mind. So we're going to read later about the description of Kali Yuga, because Kali Yuga and dissatisfaction, they go hand in hand. So Prabhupada's giving a little preview here. He's basically saying the same thing, that the lifestyle people are living in Kali Yuga, it's going to produce dissatisfaction. Basically, as we know, we can see, the lifestyle has become acquisition. So the idea is get more. And the philosophy is, if you get more, you'll be happy. So what's happening is now people are being brainwashed to think your happiness, you find happiness in things, and the more things you have, the more happy you will be. Of course, we know you don't find happiness in things, you find happiness in yourself. In Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse that says, he who finds happiness within, who rejoices within. And then it says, who is enlightened within. And the word for within is antar. So there's three things. I think it was antar atma, happiness within. He finds antar jyoti, enlightened within. Antar sukha, or happiness, satisfied. I just read the verse yesterday. I can't remember exactly, but that was Krishna's point. He who finds happiness within, this enlightenment within, satisfaction within. That's Krishna consciousness. So, why are you not satisfied? Because you're looking for it outside. And it's, Krishna's saying it's within you. You have to just connect with who you are as a spiritual being. Engage in devotional service, connect with yourself. You'll find it, and you'll just like sometimes we chant japa, and like so much comes out of it. There's so much realization we get. Especially if you do a japa retreat, it's like you get so many realizations. So what's going on? You're just journeying within. There's no gratification of your senses outside of you. Or you're reading Bhagavatam, you're getting a realization, or you're worshiping the deity, and like so much is going on. So that's what Krishna means. He's like in the Sanskrit, I think it was like journey within. It's almost like journey within. I believe that was Radhanath Swami's latest book, the journey home and then the journey within. So Krishna actually uses that word. So Krishna is saying there's so much within you. You're Satchidananda. There's so much within you. So in Kali Yuga, the predominant idea is I create situations outside of me that will make me happy, and as we know, the predominant idea is acquisition. And it's not only acquisition of material things, it's acquisition of position, power, prestige. And if I get those things, I'll be happy. And Prabhupada's saying, those are the very things that will not make you happy. You'll be dissatisfied with those things. Yes? We all experience that. That's why we're devotees. So, that's another illusion we have to explain to people, that you can learn to be happy within, and our society is programming you to be happy without, not happy within. There's no, like, I'm happy within. So why do I need so many things? Later on, we'll read some purports where Prabhupada is saying, devotees satisfied with bare necessities. How could you be satisfied with bare necessities? Because your happiness is within. You don't need much. You need something. Prabhupada's not saying live under a tree. You need something. Everyone's anxious to get peace of mind, and they're doing the wrong thing. There's a point, similar to the point I was making, the spiritual quality of the seer. Seer means the soul, the one who's seeing. Like if you look at yourself in the mirror, what you see in the mirror is not you. You are the person who sees. So you're within the body, and you're seeing yourself. You're the seer of yourself. You're not that body that you're seeing. You look at yourself in the mirror and you go, oh, I'm so beautiful. No, you're the seer who's seeing that beautiful body. You're not that body. So Prabhupada uses the word seer, S-E-E-R. The seer, or seer, I don't know how you say it in Australia. The one who is doing the seeing, the observer, is manifest. The spiritual quality of the seer, of the soul, is manifest in our dissatisfaction with the limited state of materially conditioned existence. In other words, it's the same point. Prabhupada's saying the proof that your soul is that you're not satisfied. That proves you're a spirit soul. If you're just a body, then why wouldn't you be satisfied with gratification? Like you're sitting in a comfortable chair, in a beautiful home, you have nice food, nice wife, nice husband, nice family. Why wouldn't you be satisfied? Because you're spirit soul. That's why. That's why you're dissatisfied. Because you're a soul. Because you're not just a body. If you're just a body, you'd be satisfied. That's Prabhupada's point. So the fundamental quarrel with reality, Satchidananda is the reality. You're eternal, that's the reality. Your body is not the reality. Material existence is not the reality. And your body doesn't, the bodily identification, in acting only as a body, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because we're not just bodies, we're souls. And so we're not feeding the soul. So okay, you feed the body, fish out of water, feed the body. Doesn't work, never will work. Okay, I'm doing an experiment now. The sun is rising. This is, we call it the sunrise service. I'm going to turn the lights off, and we're going to have natural lighting. So just give me 1 second, okay? That's not just as bad. Anyway, hopefully it'll get a little better soon. Anyway, I thought it would be better, but you can hear me, right? So that's good. Okay. So what we're understanding now is we have a problem if we just think we're the body, because the body can't be satisfied. Why am I dissatisfied? Because the body can't be satisfied. Because Krishna constituted it that way. They can't be satisfied. You know, you eat and you're satisfied, and then 5 hours later you have to eat again. You sleep and you're satisfied, but 18 hours later you're tired. You enjoy sex life. And then, is that it? You enjoy it once and it's over? No. You want to do it again. And again. And again. And again. And again. Because the body can't be satisfied. The mind can't be satisfied. The intellect. You know, intellect. None of these things, the ego, none of these things can be satisfied. You get a big position. Okay. So, why am I dissatisfied? Because you're trying to satisfy your body. Because you're not the body. It's pretty simple, isn't it? Of course, it could take, months, at least hours for people to understand it, but it's quite simple. Let's read. This is from the 2nd canto, 6th chapter, verse 46. Every living entity has a tendency to hear pleasing messages. And as such, almost every one of us is inclined to hear news and talks broadcast by radio stations. But the difficulty is that no one is satisfied at heart by hearing all those messages. Cause of such dissatisfaction is the incompatibility of the message with the innermost stratum of the living soul. Mr. Prabhupada's making the same point. Whether it's external gratification of any of the senses or hearing information. So we're not, okay, I'm hearing, all right, I hear the news. Am I satisfied now? I'm hearing that, North Korea wants to blow up America. Okay, I've learned that the last few weeks. That's in the news. Okay, am I satisfied? I heard that Donald Trump has the lowest approval ratings ever that he's had, and he's like competing with the worst presidents that ever existed. Okay, am I satisfied now? More dissatisfied. The cause of such dissatisfaction is the incompatibility of the message with the innermost stratum of a living soul. Isn't that interesting what Prabhupada's saying? The innermost stratum. So in, I think, today's vernacular, we would say your core. Your innermost, what you're hearing is not aligning with your innermost core. what you're doing is not aligning with your innermost core. Your innermost core, innermost stratum has a need for something spiritual. So when you hear messages of Krishna, you become happy. Just like I was noticing last year, we went on Vrindavan Parikrama with Indradutta Swami, maybe 300 devotees. And Bhattahari Prabhu was there, Chaturapma Prabhu was there, Brahmatirtha Prabhu showed up, and Madhava Prabhu came, and that was very nice. And one of the things I like to do on Parikrama is look at all the devotees when they're chanting. When the katha is going on, when there's discussion. And the classes were excellent, amazingly good classes, just fantastic. Different Maharaj is giving class, Chaturapma gave class, Bhattahari gave class, and the kirtans are wonderful. So just look at the devotees, and the devotees are completely satisfied hearing about Krishna in the Dham, and hearing about the Leelas in the very place the Leelas existed. Sometimes it was hot. We have umbrellas cover our head. We weren't always in the shade. But when devotees are hearing, they're completely satisfied. And we all have that experience. Because that hearing about Krishna, it's in alignment, it's resonating with who we are as spiritual beings. And Prabhupada's saying, and so when you hear other things, it might align with your senses, it might align with your mind, it might align with your intellect, it might inspire you for the moment, it might excite you, but it won't satisfy you. And so it's just like another form of sense gratification. If you get knowledge that stimulates your mind or intellect, it's a form of sense gratification. So it's stimulating, it's interesting, you can talk about it. But it's not going to satisfy you, just as anything else that you're hearing or seeing or touching or tasting or smelling. It's not going to satisfy you unless it's Krishna conscious. So I want to read that statement again, because it's so cool. Prabhupada is the coolest. Prabhupada's language is unique, isn't it? Look what Prabhupada says. He's talking about, we're listening to radio, television, news, but we're not satisfied. The cause of such dissatisfaction is the incompatibility of the message with the innermost stratum of a living being. There's an incompatibility. So this is like the perfect description. There's an incompatibility between what we're hearing and who we are. There's an incompatibility between what we're seeing and who we are, what we're tasting and who we are, what we're smelling and who we are, what we're touching. Like, what should we touch? Touch devotees. What should we see? See the deities. See devotees. What should we hear? Hear devotees. Hear katha. What should we taste? Prasadam. What should we smell? Flowers offered to Krishna. There's no incompatibility there, and therefore there's satisfaction. Even non-devotees, when they take prasadam, they know it's not ordinary. They experience it differently than ordinary food, because there's no incompatibility now between what they're eating and who they are as spiritual beings. Otherwise, there is an incompatibility. Yes? Isn't that interesting? The incompatibility between your inner stratum and what's going into your senses. That's why you're dissatisfied. Your inner stratum is, you're not connecting with your core. You're only connecting with the external. Sundari Radha, write that down. The cause of dissatisfaction is the incompatibility of the message with the innermost stratum, and you could of the living soul, and you can change incompatibility with the message with anything, with what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're doing. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 2.6.46. Simple philosophy we have, isn't it? And materialists, they haven't figured this out. And even religionists, we can be very materialistic. So here's a reference. This is 4.8.28. This is about Dhruva. Dhruva was not a happy camper because his father had offended him. And his mother says, "My dear Dhruva, if you feel that your sense of honor has been insulted, you still have no cause for dissatisfaction. This kind of dissatisfaction is another feature of the illusory energy. Every living entity is controlled by his previous actions, and therefore there are different varieties of life for enjoying or suffering. So she's saying, okay, now you're dissatisfied, but it's okay, don't worry about your dissatisfaction, because it's just your karma. And if you accept it as your karma, then you can be satisfied. In other words, one of the problems that many of us have is we don't like our karma. We like someone else's karma. You know, I like your karma because you have more money in the bank, or your wife is more beautiful, or you're smarter than I am. I don't like my karma because I don't have as much as you have. And so Dhruva's mother's Suniti, I believe her name is Suniti, she's telling Dhruva, you know, you are frustrated now because of the way your father treated you, but if you accept it as your karma, your dissatisfaction will go away. It's just, this is what it is. You know, you may never achieve this, or you may never achieve that because it's not your karma. And if that's the case, then just accept it. Be satisfied with what you have. Be satisfied with your karma. I mean, you know, if you don't like the way your life is, you can try to improve it. But in terms of past reactions that you're reaping the results for in the present, such as the body you have, which you can't change, the place you've taken birth, your sex, your age, and so forth, that is what we call prarabdha karma, manifest karma. You can't change that. So, you know, why did I have to be born in America? Why couldn't I have been born in Vrindavan or Mayapur? It's so bad. No. You, as Prabhupada said, you make the best use of a bad bargain. You just, whatever, you just deal with it. So that's another cause of dissatisfaction. Just not accepting the deck you've been handed. This is the deck. You created this deck. You know, you don't like it, but you created it. So, like, who are you going to blame? You know, it's your karma, you know. I'm suffering because of my karma. Exactly. And who created your karma? 3 guesses. Who created your karma? Maybe I did. Yeah, you did. Okay, so you don't like it. Don't create any more bad karma. But you've created this other karma. You have to accept it. This is just the reality. This is the, you know. I mean, I had this experience. It was a very interesting experience that, I don't want to go into details, but the basic story is that I could have had so many situations, but in my life, but I see that certain situations manifest according to my karma, and I think, well, but if this would have happened or that would have happened, then I would have had this situation, but that didn't happen and that didn't happen, and many times this that could have happened, which would have created a really good situation, didn't happen. And all I could say is, it's not my karma to have this happen in my life because it didn't happen. Like you know, I told stories where, you know, certain things happened financially where I could have had a lot of money, but it didn't happen. I set up a business, and I set it up in such a way that I could have made enough money where I could have just done service all year, but it didn't happen. When my in-laws had some misfortune, and they had properties and they lost money, and they are very generous people, and they would have had a lot of money and they would have been very generous with us, but it didn't happen. In other situations, it didn't happen, and all we could say is, okay, I shouldn't be dissatisfied. I should accept, okay, this is my karma. This is not meant to happen, or I could have done this. This could have happened, and I could have achieved this position, but it didn't. So maybe it's not my karma, at least today, for it to happen. And so I have to accept that. I try my best. It's not that I'm saying I shouldn't try. I try my best. But okay, we have some comments here. Okay. Is the feeling of happiness the same as satisfaction? In the topic of happiness it's very interesting. Okay, it's good you ask it. So we're going to continue this class next Monday on satisfaction, dissatisfaction, and we'll continue it for I think many weeks. Okay, we have like 14 minutes. The topic of happiness is very interesting, and the reason it's interesting now it's getting too light, right? Let's see if I can make it darker. Whoops, is that too dark? You hit it on a certain spot and then it's too dark. Let's see if it's got a mind of its own. No. Anyway, it'll do its own thing, I think. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes happiness in each mode of nature, and then he describes the happiness of the pure devotee. So, happiness in the mode of ignorance he describes as being one of the qualities of happiness in the mode of goodness is kind of, it makes you a bit crazy and basically disorganized, dirty, crazy, lazy, illusioned. These are all sources of happiness in the mode of ignorance. And happiness in the mode of passion is just, you're just striving to do something to gratify your senses. And then happiness in the mode of goodness is that you're doing something because it's shastric and it's just supposed to be done as the right thing. So we can definitely say that there's going to be a higher level of satisfaction the higher you go up into the modes of nature. And then transcendental happiness, which is in connection with Krishna, right? You achieve ultimate happiness. So I think what we find in the material world that people can be happy and dissatisfied due to all the reasons we're talking, because it's like you have everything and you can say, well, I've got everything I want. And a lot of people, I think we were just talking about, some devotee was telling me, I have a friend or something they wanted me to meet, and he said, I have everything I want, but I'm not happy. And I think what he means is I'm not satisfied. So they don't necessarily equate. At least one of the things that I've observed is that you can make your body happy and your soul can be miserable. You can make your body happy and your mind can be miserable. You could be in anxiety about something. You can go to a football game and you have a good time, but you come home and then you have to deal with your miseries, your suffering, your situation, your bad relationships, your bad health, whatever it is. So happiness and satisfaction don't normally go together, but when you're in Sattva Gun, there's going to be more satisfaction because there's less passion. There's less negative reaction in Sattva Gun because you're doing things which are dharmic. So there's less negative repercussion. But ultimately we can say what Bhagavatam says. Only devotional service that can satisfy the soul. So, I think what's happening is in Sattva Gun, the nature of Sattva is that materially it's more satisfying. But spiritually you have to go further to be satisfied. I hope that answers your question. It's going to vary for different people in different situations. Sometimes devotees may be extremely Krishna conscious situation but still feel a kind of dissatisfaction and do not feel happy. Someone may be in a holy place with Guru and devotees but still feel dissatisfied. Yeah. So there's going to be a reason they feel dissatisfied. So, but Prabhupada said, Prabhupada said, he once said in a lecture, he said, when you're hearing Bhagavatam, you're in the mode of goodness. Puts you in the mode of goodness. So, Now, then you could say, well, if it puts me in a mode of goodness, why am I not feeling satisfied? So, you know the example Bhaktisiddhanta gives of the boat, the marriage ceremony, and the rowing the boat, but it was at night and they didn't know that the anchor was still connected, so they rowed all night and they didn't go anywhere. They couldn't see it because it was dark. They thought they were moving. So there may be something that's going on within our mind or heart that's causing us anxiety or stress or to be dissatisfied, so that even though we're in a Krishna conscious environment, there's something within the modes of nature that are pulling us, and it can pull us out, so that even in a Krishna conscious situation, we may not be Krishna conscious, and even in a situation which is externally not Krishna conscious, we can be Krishna conscious. So, it's one thing to put yourself in the ideal situation. It's another thing to absorb yourself. So, you're halfway there. You make it to Vrindavan, you're hearing and chanting. But if you develop a wrong mentality, you see Vrindavan materially, that could affect you. You become offensive to devotees. Your sadhana becomes weak. There's so many things that could nullify the advantages of being in a Krishna conscious environment. But if you just go there and there's no resistance and you just go along with the program, then naturally the power of the environment, the power of the kata, will enable you to feel this deep satisfaction. Just like when you chant good rounds, you feel satisfaction. And I've asked devotees, how do you feel when you don't chant good rounds? And mostly everybody says, I feel dissatisfied. So I can be chanting Hare Krishna and feel dissatisfied. So how is that? Because I'm not actually chanting properly. I'm just chanting because I made a vow. I'm just trying to get it done. And that's not actually the way to do it. I'm not going deeply. I'm not praying. I'm not in the proper mood. So that even engaged in devotional service, I can feel dissatisfied because I'm somewhat, in some sense, I'm disconnecting from the spiritual process. So that's there also. Yes? So, of course that can always be there. I could, let's say I give class, and at the end of the class I'm not satisfied. Why? Maybe I was just trying to impress people. And so maybe I'm reciting Bhagavatam, but my mood, my consciousness is not good, and I'm not satisfied. So that can be there. It's Bhagavatam says, Ahaitukiya pratyataya yatma suprasidati. Devotional service has to be unmotivated and uninterrupted. So it has to be done for the right reason. So you go to Vrindavan for the right reason, to become purified, to hear kata, to get absorbed. Then everything's good. You give class for the right reason. It's just to help devotees, to help purify myself. You do service for the right reason. It's not for my name or fame. It's to serve Guru and Krishna. Then Bhagavatam says you'll be satisfied. If the motive is pure, the satisfaction will be there. If the motive is impure, dissatisfaction will be there, even within devotional service. So that's a very good point. Right? So we're talking, what is another cause of dissatisfaction? Impure motives. You're doing something for the wrong reason. And then if you come to devotional service, then to do something for the wrong reason in Krishna consciousness is double dissatisfying in a sense. It's like double. If I'm a materialistic person, I'm doing something for the wrong reason. In a sense, it's kind of expected that I'll do it for the wrong reason, because everything about me is wrong. But if I'm a devotee and I do it for the wrong reason, it's not expected. So then it contaminates the purity of devotional service, and then I don't feel satisfied. So, devotional service is blissful, but it has to be done with the right motive. So that's the idea. Then, Krishna Karshini might say, well, it seems like some non-devotees are happier than devotees, and that may be true in a sense. Because if we don't do devotional service in the proper consciousness, then we won't enter into the depths of bhakti, and we won't experience the bliss of it. And if you don't experience the bliss of bhakti, but you're doing austerity, so you're renouncing the happiness of material life and material sense gratification, then yes, non-devotee would be happier because at least they're getting some material gratification, temporary gratification or some illusory pleasure. They think they're happy. They go out and get drunk, go to a party. They think they're having a good time. And you go to the temple and you have no taste, but you're following the regular principles, you could be more unhappy. So a lot of this has to do with the motive, why we're doing it. And also, as this verse says, the consistency of it. Ahaitukiya pratyata. The consistency of your service, that it's steady, regulated. You have sufficient sadhana, sufficient reading, sufficient chanting. And then, if you do that, in a pure mood, it's blissful. It connects with you as a spiritual being, and you'll be happy, you'll be ecstatic. So, I think it's a good point, it's a good discussion, and it's important because, as you well know, many devotees, after they've been around 10, 20 years, so many of them slacken in their devotional service. And we want to be able to go deeper every year. We want to be able to find our sweet spot, find our place, and then go deeper every year in Krishna consciousness. So I'm just going to see if there's another question. Sundari Radha says, I feel happy and dissatisfied at the same time in my service. But you see, then the question is, are you feeling materially dissatisfied or are you feeling spiritually dissatisfied? Because if you feel spiritually dissatisfied, that's it's like Prahlad Maharaj says, I don't know if you're feeling, so let's make the assumption now that you're feeling spiritually dissatisfied, like you want to do more. And let's make that assumption, and then if that's not true, then we can address that you're feeling materially dissatisfied and why that may be. Prahlad Maharaj said, my dear Lord Nrsingadev, Magna Chitta, my consciousness is absorbed in you. And I hear and chant about you, I feel really happy. It's really blissful. You sit down and read about Krishna, read about his Leelas, read Bhagavatam. It's pretty blissful, isn't it? Don't you think? It is. Or you chant some good rounds, there's amazing kirtan, you hear an amazing class. It's blissful. So Prahlad Maharaj says, I'm happy, I'm blissful, hearing about you. But problem is, there's all these conditioned souls, and they're not happy, and that makes me unhappy. So he's satisfied within himself, at the same time he's not satisfied because there's so many conditioned souls, and he wants to bring them all back to Krishna. So it's a duality that even Krishna has, because Krishna is Atmarama, and Krishna hankers to associate with his devotees and relish rasa. And then why does he need to relish relationship with his devotees if he's self-satisfied? It's a contradiction, isn't it? So even within Krishna, there's a dissatisfaction, there's a taste. He's always trying to arrange to be able to meet Radharani, right? Look at that, I move closer and it gets lighter. Maybe I'll just go closer. No, it didn't work. So anyway, I'm frustrated. Put my hand here, I guess lighter. Maybe I should just put my hand here. Look at my mystic power. I can hold my hand up and make things brighter and pull it back again. That's why we have cameras, because cameras don't do this. Only iPads do this. No, it's really my mystic power. So, You didn't know I had that power, did you? Blessings. May I lighten your life with my blessings. So, Krishna, Atmarama, self-satisfied, and even Krishna is hankering always how to meet the gopis. I have so many mystic powers I haven't revealed to you because I don't want to reveal them all, because then you'll be attracted to me for my mystic powers. You'll be attracted for the wrong reason. You know, Prabhupada once said, you know, I could show mystic power, but, you know, then people will be attracted for the wrong reason. His mystic power was that he made devotees. So, so we should be like Prahlad Maharaj. We should feel, like he says, that, my dear Lord Nrsingadev, when I hear and chant about your glories, my consciousness is absorbed and I'm happy. But I'm just not happy because there's conditioned souls who aren't Krishna conscious. So we should feel that way. In fact, if a devotee is not unhappy that people are not Krishna conscious, then it's not, he has to come to that stage. That's what it means to be a devotee. I was just reading something amazing yesterday. We were talking to Prabhupada in his last days about spreading Krishna consciousness, and he said that just somehow or other, they were saying, well, how can we please you, Prabhupada? He said, somehow or other, give everyone the holy name, give everyone prasadam, give everyone a chance. They're human beings. They, as human beings, they can take advantage of this. Give them the chance, somehow or other. Give them Krishna consciousness. I know what I'm going to do. So much hankering to be lighter. I'm going to move up. Maybe if I move up, I'll be lighter. No, didn't work. Now I'm darker. Oh, it works. I'm lighter. Okay. So, you know, that was Prabhupada's mood, and that's the mood of all the gurus. So, yeah, we should be dissatisfied. If your dissatisfaction is not material and not spiritual and it's material, then you have to look at your spiritual life and see, okay, well, what's missing from my spiritual life? Am I not reading enough? Am I not serving my guru the way he wants to be served? Am I not serving my husband or my wife or my children the way I should be? Am I being irresponsible with my japa? Am I not rising early? All these things can cause dissatisfaction for a devotee. Yes? You agree? So you know, it's like Narada approached Vyasadeva and he said, okay, well, let's figure out, Vyasadeva says, I'm not satisfied. And Narada is saying, okay, let's figure out why you're not satisfied. So let's go down the list. One of the main places to look is at one's japa. Bad japa will cause dissatisfaction. One's sadhana, am I hearing enough? Am I occupying my time in service the way I can? If I'm frustrated because I can't do the service I want, then that's good frustration, and all I would say is that figure out how to do it. You know, yesterday I was thinking, if I could make $20,000 in a month, then I could hire, I need about 10 devotees to make sattva successful. And if I could hire 10 devotees, then that would be fantastic. And that's what I do. Looks like my daughter's going to the temple. True? Yeah. I guess my wife's going also. I guess I'm not going. So I was thinking, I'm dissatisfied because I'm thinking of all these projects I have, and I'm thinking, I have to find someone to edit the videos, I have to find someone to edit the text, I have to find someone to make the website, I have to find someone to upload it. And it's not easy because not everyone has these talents, and the ones who do have the talents, they don't all have the time. And then, you know, we want to publish books. And so I'm dissatisfied. And I'm thinking, you know, looking realistically along the horizon, that things are going to take a long time if I don't have people that are working regularly. So that's a dissatisfaction that generates, that should generate creativity. Okay, how can I do that? How can, here I'm back in America, just the my cost of living is like 4 times higher than India, at least 4 or 5. So immediately it puts on the financial strain. So all right, okay, that's potentially can get in the way of my service. Having to put so much stress on money, that's a dissatisfaction. But it doesn't mean that dissatisfaction is bad. It just means that we have to be creative in thinking, how can we do this? How can we make it happen? They're leaving me. They're going without me. Anyway, I was at the temple this morning, and I'm starving right now, so I will have breakfast after this. And you will all go to sleep, right, in Australia? So, in that sense, dissatisfaction is good if we don't allow it to push us into the mode of ignorance where we just lament, oh, I'm dissatisfied, I can't do anything. But the dissatisfaction that generates, okay, Prahlad Maharaj is thinking, okay, how do I make people Krishna conscious? You know, how can we save people? That's what his dissatisfaction generates. That, so that's good. I think Sundari Radha's dissatisfaction is that she wants to do more. She wants to have more time for service. And also, I feel the same way. And I just had this thought. It was a strange thought that I need to do something that can generate enough money that we can hire a team. And I think, you know, that's really important. And that came from the dissatisfaction that I was feeling. You know, thinking that, you know, that's something that I haven't focused on, that I need to be more focused on. Because for Sattva to be successful, we have to have full-time people that are paid. It's just, it's going, you know, it's going to go 40 times. Here's my theory. It will grow 20 times faster, because a volunteer works 2 hours a week, a full-time person works 40 hours a week. That's 20 times. So for each volunteer we have, where we can have a full-time person, it grows 20 times faster. And then for every person that we have where we don't have a volunteer, it grows 40 times faster. So that means what would take 20 years, you get in 1 year, or what would take 40 years, you get in 1 year. That's a scary thought, and it's true. It's a very scary thought. That what could take us 20 years to develop in Sattva with volunteers could take us 1 year, or could take us a half a year for full-time workers. So I'm dissatisfied. I'm very dissatisfied. I'm not going to go rob a bank, but this is my meditation, how to generate enough income where we can hire people. That's my meditation right now. Because, so, it's okay to be dissatisfied if we think of how we can make things happen. How to save the fallen conditioned souls. What can we do? What programs can we do? How can we preach? Right now we're working on a project to write an introductory book that if written well, can bring so many more people to Krishna consciousness. So how to write it? You know, I'll write the book. I'll be working on it. I won't be completely satisfied with everything I write. I'll be dissatisfied with a lot. No, it could be written better. It has to resonate more with people. It has to relate to more people. I want people to read this book and say, yes, I want to do this. So there'll be a dissatisfaction. So that's good. The dissatisfaction with our lack of Krishna consciousness can be good if you solve the lack, if you solve the problem in your lack. Then it's good. I think the problem is to be dissatisfied and do nothing. That's the problem. Okay, so I think we should end class unless you have some questions. And then there's a lot more to read, and I'll do more study on this topic. And before we go, I just want to tell you something really interesting that I saw. There's a lady who started a program, it's called 365 Give. I may have mentioned this yesterday in class. Or maybe not. But it's so amazing what she discovered. she discovered that people achieve the highest peaks of happiness when they serve others. And she studied it hormonally, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. And these are the happy hormone cocktails. And she said they reach extremely high levels when you do service. So basically what she was saying is there's no higher way to achieve happiness than serving others. And of course our philosophy is that we're all servants. So I thought that was like very interesting that she that she did that research. And she started a program where she's encouraging people to do something every day to serve others. It's a great program for kids, because kids tend to be extremely selfish when they become teenagers, and they have to think every day, I have to do something to serve others. So I bring a cookie, give it to someone in school, I drop off some old clothes at the thrift shop, I have an allowance, I could buy something, but I don't, and I give that to a poor person. Of course, we could do that within devotional service. But there's so many benefits come through service. So I thought that's a very interesting phenomenon, because even on the material level, although we say spiritually you'll only be satisfied until you serve Krishna, but serving others is sattvic, so on that level we'll be satisfied. So that's the idea. Okay, so it's nice seeing you all. Now it's time for you to go to sleep. It must be 9:30 your time, right? And we'll end class here. And next class I think I will do this coming Saturday at 8:30 in the morning. 8:30 in the morning means for you, that's 10:30 at night. It's a bit late for you. Maybe I'll do it 7:30. I don't know. I'll talk to Sundari Radha. Maybe I want to do it. This for people in America is a bit early. Like before 7:30 or so in America is a bit early. So the early morning classes are good. I'll talk to Sundari Radha and see if I could start class at this time, but it might be too late for you guys. I don't want to keep you up. But we'll do classes around 8 or 8:30 Saturday and Sunday mornings while I'm not traveling. Okay? So nice seeing you, talking to you. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.